Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call this episode, I think we should call it Ingsocnia versus Racial Profiling and Stereotypes. What do you think, Clancy?
Yeah, I like the topic.
This one was your pick. Talk to me
Yeah,
about it. Tell me how you feel.
well, I don't know how modern this is, where people seem to have a dislike of stereotyping, but for me, it always seems to be a useful way of navigating life. Like the example I gave you would be if you're walking down a back alley in the night and a woman with a dress on in high heels comes towards you. What are you thinking? Nothing. You're not scared at that situation. You just think, okay, I'm just walking down an alley. There's a woman on the other side of the road. I'm fine. But
Well, personally, I think it's a hole on the stroll, but that's just
but
me.
okay, yeah, exactly. Well, that's another stereotype potentially. But then if you look at it the other way, if you see a male aged, anywhere between like 14 to 30 odd, with a hoodie on, walking towards you, you start thinking, oh shit, right, okay, I'm not going to look at him. I'm not going to look at him. I'm just, minding my own business. And all those thoughts start running into your head. That's a
No,
stereotype. But
that is a stereotype. Let me ask you a question. Would it matter the skin type, the skin color of the male walking
at a
toward you?
certain point, yes. But, I mean, we can get into that later. Obviously, what you're hinting at is that if a big black guy walks towards you in a back alleyway, yeah, maybe you'd be more scared, maybe not. But I think another thing that happens, for me, I don't know if many other people have this, where even if you're more scared, if it's a black guy, you have your inbuilt liberal, progressive mindset pops in, and you start thinking, right, I might smile at him. I'm going to show that I don't think that he's a threat.
If you have a situation, you can kind of manifest it into fruition, right? If you constantly are thinking that, okay, well, I'm going to get jumped or I'm going to do this or this is going to happen to me, you can kind of make that situation happen to you, whether it's that moment, that particular situation,
Yeah.
or years down the road.
I think if we're going to bring it back to just the idea of stereotypes, it's the idea that you maybe think something, or you might say something out loud, well, there was a shooting last night in wherever, and you just flat out said, oh, I bet it was a black guy. I can see how that would be portrayed as more racist, because you have literally prejudged a whole situation without knowing any of the facts. But if you then say, if 5 or 6 black guys walk towards you looking like, hoodlums, the stereotype or the prejudgment is that they are more dangerous to me than just a group of 5 white kids.
You would make a conscious effort in your mind to either circle around or something like that. Now, that I don't think is stereotypical. I think that's basic human instinct. It's stereotypes are like cliches in a sense. How are we making such a big deal out of something that is given to us biologically? You know what I mean? Has nothing to do with their color. A group of any amount of people, and you are
Yeah.
one individual, will make you feel uncomfortable. Whether they are Pakistani, whether they're Asian, whether they are black, whether they're a whole group of feminists with their tops off. Well, maybe not.
That's the scariest. That's not a cross the road. That's a turn the other way situation, isn't it?
Just
Call for a cab. Yeah. No, I kind of agree. I agree with what you're saying in terms of the biology, in that the sort of self-preservation, the instinct to fear danger or whatever. But I think there is an element where race would come into it, and make it slightly different. If a group of nerdy-looking Asian dudes, same scenario, walk towards you, you're not even. It just wouldn't cross your mind, because of the reality of the world that you live in. Asians commit like whatever very small percent of crimes, not known for toting guns or whatever, but
right.
black people on the other side over proportionally commit the most crime, or at least the most crime that might get you hurt in that direct scenario. So it's a stereotype that black people are more criminal, but it's also borne out by real world events. That's not programming, it's not, the media, it's not this and that. It's it's the real world that informs you as you grow up. You take in information and you learn kind of differences between races, at least
Sure,
in how they
personal
act in the world.
experiences.
Yeah,
So
and
it's an environment thing as
yeah,
well.
profiling and stereotyping, it can be just, it's a positive thing, I think, overall in life. So like we said, you go to an airport and three or four Muslim looking dudes, Arab looking dudes, looking a bit shifty, you probably pull them aside, you probably check the bag, you maybe go into a little bit more depth, not because you hate Arabs, it's because in the world we live in, if there's going to be somebody hijacking a plane, or if there's going to be someone transporting bombs or things that can create bombs, if you're going to go by the percentages, it'd probably be those guys, or somebody that is of the Muslim faith, and it's hard to obviously say who's a Muslim or whatever just by the facial features, but that's where quite a lot, I'm guessing, of counter-terrorism is profiling, is stereotyping, is judging people using percentages, using known information that you pick up throughout life.
Absolutely. Like you could say, in the United States, we don't have a serial killer problem. If you look at it statistically, we have a young white male problem ages 18 to 25 or
Yeah.
18 to 30. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
it just is
Yeah.
what it is. You don't find a lot of, for example, Arab serial killers, black serial killers, Asian serial killers. It
Yeah.
seemed to be young white men. So society would
Mm.
tell you, or statistics numbers will tell you, we have a young white male serial killer problem.
Yeah.
When did protecting oneself and taking one's own safety or the safety of a group of people, when did that become a problem to where we call it stereotyping? It's bad. That's a safety concern.
Yeah.
Same thing with the chick walking down the alley. She's afraid of you because she thinks she might get raped. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or you're afraid you think you might get jumped. In my case, I'm going to turn around and mug you because you know what you got.
Yeah.
But honestly, and that is biologically in us to protect us and our own, whether it's a country or your family. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, no, this is my thing with stereotypes, is you can say there's certain ones that are like more, I don't even consider them stereotypes, they're more like cartoons. You know, the Frenchman with the clothes of garlic around his neck and the stupid hat and whatever and the stripy clothes.
The loaves of baguettes.
Yeah, that's not really a stereotype that bores out in reality. That's more, if you want to put a French person in a comic, that's how you draw them. But there's different scales of stereotypes, isn't there? So if you're a security guard and you're thinking, right, I'm responsible for this plane not getting blown up, but there's a certain limited time that I need to pick out people that I believe, based on my experience, are more likely to commit the crime. So it's not flipping a coin, because flipping a coin gets you nowhere. If every person that walks into a plane, you flipped a coin, heads or tails, it'd be a pretty useless service. So if a group of if a mum and a dad and little Timmy and little Jane, happy smiley, black or white, Asian, whatever, you probably just let them through. You know, but
because they don't give off a threatening vibe.
Yeah, I think for a stereotype to be classed as a stereotype and for it to be something that's actually legitimate, it has to be borne out by reality. So women may be more empathetic, but at the same time, or at least empathetic in regards to the children, better at raising kids, better at this and that, but also statistically more likely to kill their kid. But because that statistic is so small, it's not a stereotype that women kill babies, but they are more likely. So that's what I'm getting at. So people that go up and shoot up the schools, right? It's not a stereotype that men shoot up schools, because it doesn't happen that often. But the statistic would say I'm more likely to do it, or white male is more likely to do it. So I think,
100%,
so yeah,
100%. Than a chick or
yeah,
a black kid
mm,
or an Asian kid. Statistically, you and your homeboys are more likely to get so angsty that you're going to go up in your
yeah,
school in a trench coat and
yeah,
do some damage.
yeah.
Sure.